Hi, Dar.Ra here from Cush Deep Music, and I have got the pleasure of being with one of the most interesting people I've met in quite a while, actually. It's a young man called Casper. Say hello,
Hi.
Casper.
Hello.
Tell me, what's your company called, Cas?
It's called a dandy in aspic.
Yeah. And obviously we've been talking about clothes and fashion, and you go back quite a way, don't you? Tell us, because you started in London in Ladbroke Grove,
Yes.
back in the sort of 70s.
Yes.
Tell us what was the first thing that sort of like caught your eye in terms of fashion in London at that period of time?
Well, we were living in South London, so you got the whole the two-tone thing, and there were a lot of rude boys, young rude boys in their Crombie overcoats, and I really liked that sound. And then my brother got into the jam. But my brother was he was half mod, half rockabilly, because he really loved the rockabilly style.
That's kind of interesting mix.
And but he had loads of jam records and not many rockabilly records. But he used to hang out at Feet First in Camden on a Friday night, which was a kind of rockabilly night. And then I think when you're growing up, you follow fashion, but some fashions have always stayed with me. So the fashion of the 60s and 70s has kind of stayed with me. I made a few faux pas in the 80s, rolling up my jacket sleeves and things like that. And you look back thinking, dude, did I really do that? Oh well.
Luckily there wasn't sort of as many photographs.
Yeah, well,
at that point, so we kind of got away with it.
Yeah.
So obviously you're drawing quite heavily on the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
But you bring something new to it. So what was your first shop that you had in town? What was?
Well, I had a market stall on Portobello.
Wow.
And that's when I came up with a name, because my stepfather was a writer. And
Tell us your stuff. What was his name?
Derek Marlowe.
Derek Marlowe.
Yeah, and he wrote about 7 novels, and Dandy and Aspic was a bestseller, and we basically lived off the proceeds of that. It was we had a huge house in the country, and it was a great time. Me growing up in the 70s, best time of my life, really. The house was never empty, and we always had, and the people that we used to come and go from our house, I never realised at the time just
who they were.
Movers and shakers. We had Georgie Fame, we had Tom Stoppard, we had lots of names now that people go, really? And I found out much later on in life, my mum said, oh, you do realise that Georgie Fame's wife was your godmother. I said,
goodness.
I said, you never told. I said, I never knew that. She wasn't a very good one. I never got any cards from her or anything. I think she was token godmother.
You didn't get you didn't get a Hammond organ off Georgie.
No, I didn't. But I remember when I was ill at school, and I was in the sick bay, and I'm reading one of those pop annuals, and I saw his picture in there, and I went, blimey, that's that bloke who comes to our house. It suddenly dawned on me who he was. And then much later in life, I listened to his music and thought, blimey, I grew up with him.
Amazing.
We called him Fame, and he used to come with his wife and say, but his first wife, I think, sadly, she took her own life. But, that was
who are the sort of people that really kind of like caught your eye in terms of sort of like for fashion? And obviously the fashion and music is a kind of hand in glove situation, but who would be the first type of person that you've gone, wow, that's really influential?
One of my role models is Brian Jones from the Rolling Stones. He was the subject of a book called Today There Are No Gentlemen.
Wow.
I can't remember who the book's written by, but I think they put it back in print, and it was because he was a proper dandy, and him and Jimi Hendrix, they embraced the whole psychedelic style, but in that psychedelic style, you had the Regency collars and the ruffled shirts, which Austin Powers kind of takes the mickey out of it. So when Austin Powers came out in the 90s, it was a kind of godsend and a horrible time for me, because every time I walked down the street, I'd get someone, you go, oi, here he comes, Austin Powers. All right, Austin, mate. Right.
It was a bit of a shame.
See you later.
But obviously the roots of dandyism go all the way back to sort of Oscar Wilde. 80, like we're talking about Shelley and Keats.
Well, the very first dandy was Beau Brummell, and basically before Beau Brummell, before the dandies came along, you had the Fops, and Fops were obviously gay, but they couldn't admit it in those days, and they wore lace and frills and had beauty spots and wore lipstick and makeup, and they were all very with all the frills and the fans, very effeminate. And then along came the dandy and just took all that and pared it down, and black and white was the colour of the dandy. Just a simple starched shirt, with a black tie, with a white tie, and then everything, and straight trousers. Nobody wore trousers. Everyone wore breeches, and Beau Brummel was the first one to say, no, I'm gonna wear trousers. You only wore trousers when you went horse riding to stop your legs from changing. And then he got his tailor to make him some trousers, and then he became friends with the Prince of Wales. And rumour has it that the Prince of Wales said to him, I wish I knew how to get dressed in the morning, Brummel. I wish I could watch you get dressed. So Brummel said, well, why don't you come round to my house in the morning? And before you know it, there's a queue of men round the corner, queuing up just to learn how to get dressed properly in the morning.
Didn't Beau Brummel design the British Army red uniform?
Yeah, quite possibly. I don't know.
That's where the red came from, for the red tunic, was Beau Brummel. So the dandy theme is something that I'm really interested in, because obviously we're standing together, we've just met each other, and there was obviously a recognition of kind of each other's styling, because I've got, obviously I like to sort of dress. Exactly, got your necktie. So where would you say that kind of framework is now for sort of men in kind of like how they express themselves? Do you feel that that's kind of like died out, or do you think it's like having a revival?
It's kind of a bit of, but there was a, when you had the TV series Mad Men, suddenly more men started getting interested in wearing suits again, because they made wearing suits look cool. And it was that particular time period of suits, thin lapels, slim ties, and moss bros.
Yeah.
I don't like them now. They're called moss, and everything's made in China. But they kind of were a bit late jumping on the bandwagon. And the new school of men's suits is 2 buttons, slim lapels, very short jacket. I mean, shorter than a bum freezer.
And what about where the cut is on the leg?
I don't, and it's too, and the trousers are too skinny.
Right.
Now you're seeing a resurgence of wide cut trousers and flares even coming out, and big lapels coming back, because people want a little bit of flair.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I think it was Robert Downey Jr. got kind of singled out on the red carpet because of the width of his trousers.
Okay.
Never mind the movie he was in, but there's like wide cut trousers and big lapels are making a comeback.
Absolutely.
Because there's a certain type of male who wears the new school skin tight trousers. They're so tight they're almost like leggings, and worn by men who've got overdeveloped thighs who spend a long time in the gym, and it looks.
Cut. They need to be styled. They need a Beau Brummel.
Well, they
really don't. They need a Beau Brummel.
I mean,
do you think there is a Beau Brummel kind of like lurking on the in wherever?
Well, he just passed
in Paris or London.
There was one in London called Bunny Rogers, and he just passed away about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
And his entire collection went up in auction, and he was a proper Beau Brummel.
Wow.
Before him, you had Quentin Crisp.
Of course.
And he was another dandy. He doesn't care about wearing like a chiffon scarf or something, and doesn't bother me. I'll if the cap fits and I look good in it, doesn't bother me whether it's a man or a woman.
You're talking about Terence Stamp and John Wayne. Give us that little quote there about John.
Well, when they made the Alamo, and John Wayne turned around to Terence Stamp and said, "Oh, hell, can't you even walk like a man?" He said, "Yes, I can, thank you, Marion."
Yeah, right.
That's Marion Morrison was his name. I thought good comeback.
So London for you was obviously a melting pot.
Yeah.
Who were the sort of designers that really cut it for you in that period of time? The age of the 80s, particularly the 80s and the 90s. Who was really doing it for you?
I've never really. I mean, you have Vivienne Westwood, but I've never really been into design, because I always have got the vintage vibe. So I used to go to shops like Flip, American Classics, and they sold all the American vintage. And so designers have never really kind of.
But there's, like you mentioned Paul Smith.
Yeah,
earlier.
Paul Smith. Yeah. He was, he started off back I think in Nottingham in a place called the Birdcage, and then got his own label going in the 80s, and it was very much of its time. Now he's branched out, and a lot of his stuff is very retro. It's very kind of got a 60s, 70s.
I do remember a lot of pinstripe stuff, like blue pinstripe kind of suits, not the boaters, but more sort of pinstripe vibe. What about people like Jasper Conran? Was Jasper kind of like that in that same ilk?
Yeah, again, he's another one who They appeal to me because their styles are very retro, and I like the retro style and stuff. And then you've got people like the Regal, who are around in Carnaby Street.
Yeah, the Regal.
The Paisley Revival, they called it.
Yeah.
The sort of mid to late 80s, and they made stuff very much like the waistcoat you're wearing, brocade, and suits with matching trousers, so you get a full brocade suit and look like a proper dandy.
Yeah, exactly.
And it makes you stand out, you know.
And I think that's the vibe, isn't it? It's about expression and about sort of standing out.
And there's another guy, and I've totally forgotten his name, who lives in Burgess Hill, and he's a proper Victorian dandy.
Right.
And every day he gets up and he dresses.
Oh, I've heard, he's
Yes.
a young chap, isn't he?
Yeah, and I was sitting on the train with him, and I really wanted to go and say hello, but I was a bit in awe of him, because he was totally dressed with a silk top hat, and he had the silver top cane and everything, the waistcoat, the tie, the tailcoat.
Yeah, I mean, and he designs his own stuff as well, doesn't he? So you're now based in Brighton.
Yes.
Tell us about where you are right now.
I'm based in the Kemp Town Trading Post, which is in Kemp Town, St George's Road.
Cup of Joe's is the lovely restaurant
like a
next to you.
half cafe, half.
And you've been here for a little while. You've been here for
I've been here for a year.
Yeah.
I moved from Camden Town in the Stables Market.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
people
nice here.
can find you down here now.
They can find me down here.
Obviously, we were talking about this film that you've bought a lot of stock. You've got some stock in, and you're stocking a film about the Beatles. Are you allowed to talk about that, or is that top secret?
I'm not supposed to be really, but
right, he's not going to tell us, but he is doing something really special.
But they're buying bits and pieces from me. I'm not. They're buying from everybody. It's a big project.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say.
Are you allowed to tell them what it's about or not?
Well, I'm not. Yeah. They can find out.
We'll have to do a part 2 when it's all happening. But they've got some beautiful bits and pieces in the store, as you can see. I'm just going to do a little pan.
Yeah, please, yeah.
Got some. I mean, I pulled this suit out. I thought it was really lovely. Little velvet. It's got matching trousers with it as well. There's a lovely single-breasted vibe. He's hidden it. He's hidden the single-breasted. What do you do? Is that because you don't want someone to buy it?
No.
Because you want to keep it. It's really lovely.
The front as well. I like. This is like your kind of thing, you know.
Yeah,
goes with your waistcoat.
Yeah, beautiful.
If that was 2 sizes bigger, I'd keep it.
Yeah, definitely. Got some beautiful desert boots down here as well. These beauties. As you can see, I'm mad for desert boots, but beautiful blue desert boots there. There's a lot of stuff for women as well. So nice. That looks like the old British Airways bag there. Bowling bag. Right. So that.
Got the bowling ball and the
I can feel it when I picked it up, man.
The other one next to it is empty.
Yeah. So this is your Northern Soul bag. So if you go to your Northern Soul jams and you want to kind of put your talcum powder somewhere, that's where you're going to put it. Lovely. I mean, you've got to have a scarf, guys. If you don't have a cravat,
I've got a good deal of nice
some
cravats
beauties
as well.
here, some lovely cravats here. And you've got cravat. We've both got cravats on. Look at that. And I've just met Casper, so it's not like I'm coming out to impress Casper. We just so you got lovely little the peak cap there, the old peak cap, really cool stuff going on. There's a boating blazer up there, some hats. Casper was saying you're into hats at the moment.
I'm into hats, yeah.
So what's what inspires you about hats? What's the hat saying to you? What does it say when you put a hat on for you?
This is me.
This is you.
And I like to adorn them with feathers.
With the feathers.
Yeah.
Have the feathers got any kind of native kind of Indian vibe going on there, or is there any spirit are you connecting in spiritually with the feather there?
No, I never thought of it like that. It goes back to the Musketeers. They used to have the big ostrich feather,
right.
and Jimi Hendrix used to have a big feather in his hat.
Yeah.
And so they're some of my role models.
Hendrix, of course.
Brian Jones from the Stones.
See, let's just talk about Brian Jones for a second, because he definitely picked up that mantle, didn't he, of that dandy. Yeah. And actually, if you go on eBay and look for boating blazers, there is a Brian Jones boating blazer.
Yeah,
not
suit. It was actually it was a red and black suit that he wore when they had to go to court. Because they were
for Mare and
and we just did it. We just saw last year at the Chichester Festival, and they produced a play about it called Redlands. Redlands that's where they got busted, and it turns out the whole thing was a sting organised by a reporter from the News of the World, who just wanted a big scoop. And the East Sussex police were involved, and the whole thing eventually got thrown out of court. And it was the actor Nigel Havers. His father was the judge.
Oh, really?
Who the QC, so the barrister, who took the case, and he was kind of egged on by his son, saying that you really should take this case.
Wow.
It'll
look good on your CV.
It'll boost your career. And because Jagger was the new royalty now, pop stars were the new royalty. And for him to take that on, and
there is a clip of them in a "We Love You" video, isn't there, where they sort of recreate that whole "We Love You," and the judge is there, kind of doing his little routine. So I guess that would have been. But I think they were busting quite a lot of people at that point. I think Lennon got done, didn't he?
Yeah, they were making scapegoats out of them because they were just fed up of people getting away with this. So we need a scapegoat. And the Stones were the first, then Lennon, and then of course the press were grovelling afterwards. Hence John Lennon's song. You know, they're trying to crucify me. The way things are going. He said suddenly they come back to England. Oh, good to have you back, and all this like, shut up.
Yeah, which is a very interesting kind of viewpoint. So it's obviously where are we looking now in 2025 to going forward in terms of sort of men's fashion? What are you seeing? Is there any sort of trends that you're going? Yeah, I can see that's going to work. Or are you going are you staying where you are?
There's always kind of revivals going on now, and at the moment, with the sort of 25 to 35-year-olds, there's a kind of 90s. It's a 90s revival. So you've got
Oasis have played into that a little bit.
Exactly, and you've got bands who haven't played. Even Jarvis, who's one of my customers, he's reformed Pulp, and they're making a new album, and loads of bands.
Cooler Shaker's the one that stick out for me. In fact, I saw Cooler Shaker down here about 6 months ago.
Okay.
And I absolutely smashed it. Yeah, really, really cool.
Yeah.
They've got a new album out as well, which is worth looking at.
There's a lot of bands who
I would have thought Crispin and his mother would have popped in to see you.
I did have that when I was in London. I had the stylist. They were filming a music video, and she saw some stuff and said, I'll have to get Crispin to come in. Sadly, he didn't come in. Had some white trousers and a white suit. And she said, I think it would look great in their video.
Definitely.
But no, unfortunately, he didn't make it, but it doesn't matter.
Well, I'm sure I think after this video, because we are kind of like friends on Facebook, me and Crispin, so maybe you'll pop in when you're in Brighton. I think this is definitely a pit stop for anybody in Brighton who definitely, without a doubt, who wants to come in and have a chat with Casper, because this guy knows a lot about kind of fashion. Lastly, any bands that are coming forward for you that you're going, they sound kind of like
the Fontaines.
Fontaines, of course, they did well at Glastonbury, didn't they? Did quite well at Glastonbury. Well, they got because of the free thing kind of
and
going on.
There are some retro bands like the Molotovs.
The Molotovs is interesting.
They're a kind of mod revival band. So they've got a whole sort of definite mod revival flavour.
I've been impressed with their little rise has been quite incredible, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, because they've been boosted
brother and sister.
Yeah, they've been boosted by the whole mod scene, which is kind of overrun by when you think the mod culture was a youth culture. Now it's populated by men my age or older than me sometimes. But that's not a bad thing, And there's so much. There's a band called the Stripes.
Okay.
And they were taken on by Elton John's record label. Okay. Originally, it was.
Was that the Rocket label?
Yes. Yeah. They were signed up. They were signed up by him, but they were their original manager was Chris from Squeeze.
Oh, okay, right.
Chris Gifford. Squeeze. He was their first manager.
Jules Holland's crew.
And they're fantastic. They're like a young Yardbirds. They're full on kind of fast. Rhythm and blues.
Stripes,
I mean, really good.
The Spitfires, really another band. Have you come
Spitfire, yes, the Spitfires, another good band. And all these bands tend to have a moddy kind of flavour.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because we talked about fashion before. The mod influence in fashion will never go away.
No.
It's always going to be there. And when designers and when fashion runs out of ideas,
it goes back to
what's the default button? Two default buttons, the 60s and the 70s. Always press the default button for the 60s, and it's for women's wear, black and white. Suddenly everything's black and white, everything's op art. And then you got the men's stuff. It's like three button suits, and all of a sudden, and it's nice because it's getting harder and harder to find.
How many revivals have you seen since you've been about?
Oh God, I mean, you've had every 25 years there's a revival. So
are we in the middle of another revival? Or
at the moment we're in 90s/noughties revival.
Okay.
And the noughties for me is like,
Don't really remember anything happening in the noughties.
fashion-wise, utility wear.
Okay.
If you think back to the noughties, you had like shop window displays. You could have changed over the heads of the mannequins, and you wouldn't have mattered because it was so bland.
Yeah, of course.
And the colours were all grey and kind of khaki, and it was boring.
Of course.
The 90s, you had colour because you had the whole acid house thing.
Yeah.
And
Joe
so,
Bloggs was big at that point,
Joe Bloggs, huge designer. Joe Bloggs, and you had D-Light, bands like D-Light coming out.
The
So you had
Paisley
that
thing was massive,
whole Rare Groove thing coming out again. So before acid house really took over, used to go to warehouse parties, and there'd be it would be totally Rare Groove and funk, and this little room where they're playing this weird music. Everyone's going acid like this, and then gradually that room got bigger and bigger and bigger until you just had one whole warehouse party that was playing nothing but acid.
But funny that you should say that, because actually I do remember those warehouse jams particularly, like down the Old Street and all that kind of vibe.
Clink Street.
And I think what was so inspiring is exactly what you just said, was that there was different. There was like a DJ would play Talking Heads and then play like a Balearic beat thing or whatever, and it was an amalgamation of it was a journey. It wasn't just one kind of vibe. Whereas like I think as the night, I mean, I was signed to EMI, as I told you, making house records, but coming through. The thing I loved about house records was the Philadelphia strings, the Motown vibe. You know, that's what we did. We brought back the soul vocals, the gospel element of it. So for me, it was just like mod music, but basically brought forward into the sort of 90s vibe.
Some friends of mine, Percy, PPQ, he had his own fashion label, PPQ, the Percy Parker Quartet. Wow. And they had a club called Fashionista, and this was in the 90s and it was an innovation in clubbing, because you had basically four clubs inside one. So you had the PPQ room, which was pure 60s music. Then you had a sonic disco room, a drum and bass room, and another room, and you could wander from room to room, and everyone just got on with it. And apparently David Bowie turned up there one night because he heard talk about this mythical place. He turned up one night, and then Mick Jagger turned up one night, and I turned up on the night that the Bowie turned up. 5 minutes after he left, my friend was going, "You should have been here. Bowie was here." Right.
But Bowie sort of like was at the Blitz Club in Wardour Street as well. So he has that. He was a massive kind of player for the whole Spandau Ballet kind of cruise and all that once it came through. Like Paul Waller, who I'm working with at the moment, all really good pals with kind of like that whole framework.
Bowie was soaking up everything. And he was the biggest innovator of
I mean, you'd say
androgynous.
Definitely. I mean, he was a dandy, wasn't it?
Of course he was. The Thin White Duke, wore all those really slim-fitting suits when he was as skinny as a beanpole. Doing too many.
Bit too much.
Bolivian. Bolivian marching powders. But and he went through a whole Nazi phase when he was just off his head and dressing up as a Gestapo officer, because he liked the kind of tight-fitting leather pants.
I mean, I think we've all got a bit of a penchant for Hugo Boss, really.
Well, yes.
I mean, didn't Loaded put Rommel on their cover at one point?
It was something I remember. I think I managed to get myself inside Loaded.
Did you?
At this club, Happiness Stands. They did a photo spread, and there's about 12 photos, and the caption is me and another girl dancing. I can remember the day that it was on. Somebody had turned the air conditioning the wrong way, so they put the heating on full volume.
So you were
and
drinking
it was about 100
like
degrees, and I'm gurning like this. She caught me in dancing to some Northern Soul mid-gurn, and the headline was Quasimodo-phenia.
Oh wow, a whole new vibration.
But totally, it was funny.
Yeah. So you feel like we're in a position of like it's more positive than kind of like the other kind of part of the spectrum. You feel it's like things are kind of like moving forward, and like there are things to get excited about in England.
Yeah,
or the UK.
I think you've got to create things to get excited about.
Yeah.
And I think too many people. England itself it's a kind of strange place to be in at the moment, because right now you've got this whole thing of flag waving, and unfortunately it was started by the wrong people for the wrong reasons. Now I'm all for being patriotic. When the World Cup is on, there's flags everywhere. But these people, half of them can't even spell. You know, I'm looking at photos on the internet of people who's, this is England, spelt with an I. And I'm like, you can't even spell.
I mean, obviously that's a huge subject to sort of uncover and stuff, but and you know, and we could do a whole new vid on basically on the politics of things, and you know, it is a difficult time, but it's a tumultuous period of time, isn't it? And what would be your vision of how this will kind of play? Because a lot of people go civil war and this, that, and the other sort of. But
that
you know,
can happen. I mean, fashion-wise, I think.
But that will be a smorgasbord for like bringing together like musical vibrations.
Yeah, well, it does.
Right?
I think now you don't have.
As long as it's not Screwdriver.
Well, you don't. Yeah. But you don't have the oi bands, but you don't have the tribes so much anymore now, because everywhere vintage is a very broad. It's a very broad label, and often misused. So anything that's not new now is called vintage. Well, not really, but now you've got the younger generation who are embracing everything. So they're throwing it all into the melting pot.
Which is
whereas
great.
some of my generation, they go, oh no, I wouldn't wear that with that. I wouldn't wear those with those.
Yeah.
I'm strictly mod, and I only wear these things together. When I was a mod, I used to be like that. Got to be 3 buttons, got to be slim trousers.
Yeah, I think in terms of sort of like there has to be a certain got to be in what you do. But I love the fact that, like, so for instance, like we've both come through the mod thing, but I wouldn't say I dressed like a mod.
No, I never labelled myself as anything.
Even in the 90s, you know, I'd still kind of go to Carnaby Street and buy, you know, stuff from out of Lambretta shops, whatever. But I would put it with something else, and I would call myself more of a cyber mod at that point. You know what I mean? Going out, and because I didn't like that framework of I hate that sort of thought that you're stuck in a groove. Like I want to feel like, and this isn't me being disrespectful, but I speak to a lot of kind of a few other people that have got shops in Brighton who are retro, and it seems very much like they are kind of really like, it's got to be this, it's got to be that, and some of it is kind of like moving in sort of directions which is bringing in that 80s, like I'm not going to mention any names, do you know what I mean, but Sergio Tacchini,
that,
you know, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, you've got
it's more terraces.
The casual thing, and it's funny because the casual and the mods were both as passionate about their look as each other, but yet the mods, a lot of they call the purist mods, were going back and buying original 60s gear, whereas your mod revival lot were going down to Carnaby Street, going to Milandi, Shelley's, The Face, and all those, and Sherry's, and all those shops in Carnaby Street, and buying
Sherry's was a cool shop, man.
Yeah, and buying the new one, the Merc. I know Alex who used to.
Merc was good. Merc was good.
Now the
but
Merc
then you had the King's Road, the Emporium at the bottom of King's Road.
Yeah, the Emporium.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was and the best place ever, Kensington Market.
Of course, the hypermarket.
I bought my first pair of Levi's drain pipes from Kensington Market. They were $12.99, and I got £1 off. This is in 1979. $12.99.
Amazing for a pair of Levi's.
I was on a youth opportunities program, and I was basically paid the same as dole money. But I was doing a theatre workshop, and I went with my money, and I bought myself a pair of Levi's jeans. They were $12.99.
Good bit of investment.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people might have bought a bit of gold, but you bought. I mean, those Levi's would probably be worth 3-4 times that now.
Probably,
you know what I mean?
Well, they're proper drain pipes. We didn't call them skinny jeans. They were drain pipes.
But that's another weird thing, isn't it? Well, like Levi's, like I'm a Levi. If you say, oh look, you're going to go and buy a pair of jeans, it'd have to be Levi's. I couldn't. That's my gotta be. And it have to be a red tag, like red tag 501s. You know what I mean?
I like the orange tag.
You know, I do.
This is a very rare orange tab Levi's.
Okay. And it's actually, that's quite nice. Actually.
That's lovely. And it's got vents on the back, and it's got a belt all the way around.
Yeah, it's actually.
These are fake upper pockets, but you've got these holster pockets down here.
Right.
And that's one of the rarest.
See, when I looked at that, I thought that was like more for a female, but actually it's a man's one, isn't it? Yeah.
It's got a kind of western vibe.
Cravat, a nice pair of some matching jeans with that.
But I was told
double denim. They say don't do double denim, but
no.
But I like
status
it.
Status quo. With the ambassadors of denim in the 70s, and they did quadruple denim. They were featured on the cover.
My friend was on tour doing the wardrobe for Status Quo. So,
well, they were sponsored by Wrangler, and they were on the cover of I think it was a Rolling Stone magazine in quadruple denim. So they had a denim 3-piece suit with a denim shirt.
Amazing.
And it's like nobody but Status Quo
could get
away with it back in the day.
They were
the
such
kings of
they're
denim.
such lovely people as
Oh,
well.
yeah,
Francis is a long story about Francis meeting him in Sydney, of course. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, obviously we're just going to wrap up and say like it's been a pleasure talking to you, Casper. I think we're going to be staying in tune. You know what I mean? Obviously, very interested in hearing about this film that's going to be coming out about a certain band that people know. They're going to know this band, aren't they, when it drops?
Well, it's all over. I mean, we know who the cast is already.
Oh, yep.
And it's been all over the internet, but they haven't actually started filming yet. It's got a release date of 2028, so it's a long time in the making.
Yeah.
And
a lot of details
it's a big,
to get right.
big project. So, and they're trying to make it as authentic as possible. So they're getting as much original clothing as
It's
they
a
could
big
possibly
project,
find.
massive
It's a
project.
massive project.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you think it's covering the entire from the late 1950s when they first started as a skiffle band.
You're giving it away now.
You're
giving it away. But we'll be looking out for obviously these when they're so if you see these in the film, you'll know where these have come from. So you better get down here and buy one of these before they get sold out, because they're actually going to be shipped off to a film production company. So this is Dar.Ra for Kush Deep Music, and this is Casper. Just give us your name again of the shop.
A dandy in aspect.
A dandy in aspect. So yeah, come down to Brighton, come check this guy out. He's amazing. Seriously, what he doesn't know about clothes doesn't leave anything to the imagination. So God bless, peace, love, unity. We're out.